Now, someone suggested me once when I was thinking about, since I have my original created characters to be the Lost Galaxy Power Rangers, right? If you haven't noticed, there was a link to my fan casting on my Power Rangers Lost Galaxy fanfiction wiki, the one that I established since 2011. The link is in the description box below. This one person, Mr. Zaggy, I believe, if that was the commenter's name at the time, quote, "I was going to ask if the Magna Defender would be in your Power Rangers Lost Galaxy movie." He was suggesting in response that it would be the original Magna Defender and not Mike. That was a tough question. The Red Ranger's brother, on the other hand, was going to have a reduced role in the film, since the film's rough cut and original runtime, when it was done, for those that saw it 5 years ago, was clocked at 1 hour and 45 minutes, essentially 112 minutes. But that cut of the film, the one I released in 2014, is hereby deleted and is no longer on my channel. You know, the upload of PRLG 2014 that had everything put together, but was reshot in front of a SD TV screen with my PS3 plugged up to it and with my camcorder used for the first film right in front of it. Well, with the complete cut of Power Rangers Lost Galaxy 2014, which is now on my channel, you can clearly see the real thing of the film better than what viewers of my channel I saw 5 years ago. Even with this new cut, it's still not very good. There were original plans for the Red Ranger's brother to have a reduced part of my first film and save the character becoming the Magna Defender for what would then be a potential sequel, which being Power Rangers Lost Galaxy The Wrath of Trakeena as of 2019 and this video's recording. In the second half of Lost Galaxy, Mike as the Magna Defender as himself, he didn't have much to do after he was freed from the Magna Defender spirit at the end of Redemption Day. In the sequel, if I were to do a Power Rangers Lost Galaxy 2, again being Wrath of Trakeena, I would have the Magna Defender have a much larger part with the Rangers. But that didn't happen because the sequel would focus on Trakeena's rise and wrath of power, portrayed differently for the films, like I have wanted to do 3 to 4 years before this film and the next one. Okay, now the miscellany about the character. Now, what I did not bring up in the last video about the paper puppet I made of Magna Defender, probably even if I said so in the original version, that the original paper puppet and the original design of Magna Defender, by recreating what was already established and existing, Magna Defender's costume, if you look at the puppet in front of you based on the original video footage, that the Magna Defender's look for the first fan film was supposed to look like Christian Bale's bat suit from Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy, aka the Dark Knight trilogy, the Dark Knight Rises costume of Bale's, with Magna Defender's helmet and the cape, which then had the red underalls of the cape, and the cape being all black and not any red and black meshed with it. But I felt that since, going with the approach of how at that time and even still today in today's Hollywood cinema with superhero movies and such of alike, that superhero movies have to have superheroes have armored suits and have it more realistic and not being like all goofy comic book like spandex as most of how superheroes always tended to look since their initial creations. I really was going to go for a more armored look for the Power Rangers, but wait until when I do a redux recording of that featurette and paraphrasing what I originally said back in the original version of that video and that featurette. Really though, Magna Defender did have all armor and no spandex. Well, what little spandex there was underneath that black and silver armor of his. And the green and silver hexagon shape on his chest, I still kept that intact, but the entire outfit just didn't really scream Magna Defender because, well, I get that in the day and age, within the mindset back when we had superhero movie reboots like the 2015 Fantastic Four and the Amazing Spider-Man and such of movie reboots of alike. You gotta defer from how the characters sort of originally looked in the original source material, but you also at the same time have to keep the original color palette of how the characters were by their respective iconic colors. For like instance, Spider-Man in almost all of his appearances based on how Stan Lee and Steve Ditko created the character, Spider-Man has always had a red and blue suit, although based on the original Steve Ditko look, Spider-Man had a red and black look, but Stan Lee reverted to red and blue because if he was bit bit by a radioactive spider. If the spider was red and blue, Spider-Man's colors has to be red and blue, and the webbing is black. Sans the Sam Raimi and Mark Webb Amazing Spider-Man 2 look, where the webbing on his costume was all silver to white or so of alike. But I'll get to talking about that with the change of why I could have gone with the Armored Galaxy Ranger look for a potential reboot like this if the fan films, well, because, you know, if fan films, like I said back in the first part about MMPR, was going to have Armored Ranger looks, I was kind of going to do the same because, of course, the fan film has to be separate from what was established in the actual series, since knowing how fan fiction could be, it's either good or bad of alike. Now, unlike the last video, which I didn't bring up, about the fan casting about Magna Defender for the Power Rangers Lost Galaxy fan films, which I have been wanting to talk about since the last video. The fan castings for the Magna Defender, if it was the Red Ranger's brother or so. Now, in my initial attempts of Power Rangers Lost Galaxy for fan films in the Marshverse, thinking back to my original version of The Rise of Turkina, I did have two different actors for those fan castings if the Magna Defender was the Red Ranger's brother. But in my initial version of my Power Rangers Lost Galaxy fan film reboots, Magna Defender was going to be the Blue Ranger's brother and not the Red Ranger's brother like in the source material. But looking back on that point when I did the 2014 film Onward, I realized how incorrect that was, and that's why I reverted the Magna Defender being the Red Ranger's brother and not the Blue Ranger's brother, because of course I wanted to do something different at the time when I started doing stuff like this since 2010 all the way to where I am today. The fan castings was looking back to some of my initial, you know, scrapped fan films of Power Rangers Lost Galaxy and scrapped fan castings that I've long forgotten about in terms of what celebrities I fan casted to be in those roles. If they were to be. If it was the brother of the Red Ranger, the original fan casting I had for the Red Ranger's brother, not Mike, but someone else by the name of Jesse Marshall, since, by the way, Jesse Marshall is a character of my fan film reimagining of Power Rangers Lost Galaxy set in what is the Marshverse of Power Rangers. Since I didn't want to go with the names of the original characters from the actual Power Rangers universe, you know, pertaining the same powers and suits and stuff, I had to go with new characters, but but that would later dawn if ever in an alternate reality of Power Rangers would take on the powers. So going for that, the original fan casting for that Magna Defender, you know, Red Ranger brother sort of character, but stock character, my first celebrity fan casting for that character was going to be, and I know this sounds a little inappropriate, Jesse G. James, the Harley Davidson biker guy, motorcycle guy Jesse James, not the iconic gunslinger Jesse James, but you know, there's kinds of guys named Jesse James out there. And the Jesse James that I was going for was the first time I ever heard of this Jesse James guy, the same guy who does the motorcycles and was once married to that tattoo artist Kat Von D at one point, to have him as the Magna Defender in the Marshverse. Even though in initial versions of my Power Rangers Lost Galaxy fan films, again, the ones that have been scrapped, this Jesse James was not going to be the Magna Defender, but instead some knockoff sort of Sixth Ranger in a black suit that would happen to be the Marshverse equivalent to Magna Defender. But at that time, that was when I was kind of experimenting to come up with my own original US-made, fan-made Power Ranger to be in the Sixth Ranger slot. Since Magna Defender is not really considered a Sixth Ranger by most degrees, I wanted at one point before, in the films before Power Rangers Lost Galaxy 2014 and onward, I was going to do an OC Sixth Ranger similar to Magna Defender, kind of make it like a mesh between the Phantom Ranger and Titanium Ranger and the Solaris Knight, but with an all black or so armored suit, similar to Magna Defender, but if he was an official Sixth Lost Galaxy Ranger, since again, Magna Defender, like I said in my 20th anniversary retrospective, which predates this video again, since if Magna Defender has a Morpher and has a Zord, he is a Power Ranger. And of course, based on the original toys from Bandai of America, I know I'm repeating old tangents from what I said before in a recent video, that if he has a Zord and a Morpher, you know, of course, it's about the whole when is a Ranger, not a Ranger debacle. When knowing that if Magna Defender has a Zord and Morpher, knowing that if he doesn't have a suit that's made of spandex like a traditional Power Ranger would, and then if his name doesn't if Magna Defender doesn't have the word Ranger in his name, I know I'm talking a little too fast here, but seriously though, then how can he be a Ranger if Magna Defender doesn't have the word Power Ranger in his name? That's just saying much. because Magna Defender has been widely known in terms of his controversy, much like any other, non-Ranger-like character like Ninja or Robo Knight, Solaris Knight, Blue Centaurian, etc., throughout the franchise. If they don't have the word Ranger or Power Ranger in their name, they're not really a Power Ranger. They just happen to act as Rangers, but if their costumes are all armored, they're not really Rangers at all. But this Jesse James version, basically a fictional version of Jesse G. James, again, the same guy with the biker, the biker dude with the black shirt, blue jeans, and radical tattoos on his arm. If he was a badass Power Ranger, so basically, going back to my original Marchverse roots before the Marchverse I do now, I actually had this version of fictionalized OC version of the real life celebrity of Jesse James if he was a Power Ranger, and how I was inspired to do so. Thinking back for someone who was a fan of video games like Tony Hawk's Underground 2, since, by the way, I am in fact a Tony Hawk fan, particularly the video game series of Tony Hawk, for those who may know. In Tony Hawk's Underground 2, Jesse James was a real-life celebrity that became a fictional version of himself as a guest character in Tony Hawk's Underground 2's story mode, part of the World Destruction Tour. And that's how I got inspired to add him in my PR Marchverse universe of Power Rangers fan fiction, since essentially, if you may not know, my Power Rangers fan fiction universe is kind of like meshing the real world with celebrities and stuff. If the celebrities we know in Hollywood and so much of alike would be Power Rangers. But knowing Power Rangers, knowing as this franchise for 25 years, and so at the time of this recording of this redux of an old video, Power Rangers, most of the majority of actors, and mostly actors that we have never heard of before, that are not Screen Actors Guild talent of alike, is that for those who do make it into the Screen Actors Guild that were on Power Rangers and would be successful in Hollywood later down the road in their career paths, while most of the majority of the other half of Power Ranger actors are just, nobodies that would like to get in the acting, but once their time and purpose on Power Rangers was fulfilled per season, then what else do they do? Basically relegate to meeting lots and lots of fans at conventions and such of alike. So having Jesse James, the real life Jesse James, the motorcycle guy who also had a relationship with a so-called, I can't say, XX, adult movie star, who he had in a relationship with until that tattooed artist, and I had him as a Power Ranger. But by the time, and also his likeness was used as a paper puppet when I did the original version of Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, The Rise of Trakeena, until it was reverted until when I reworked Rise of Trakeena until that film's cancellation. I would move on, New Kids of the Block and Blue Bloods Illuminati Donnie Wahlberg, the older brother and actor Mark Wahlberg, if he would be the Magna Defender of Jesse Marshall and not Mike Corbett. But when Power Rangers Lost Galaxy The Rise of Trakeena was scrapped, then that's when I did the 2014 reboot and then went on with the other actors heading onward with another actor that I'm also fascinated with that would be a good Mike Corbett lookalike or Jesse Marshall character, with the likeness of actor Brandon Routh, known for playing Superman in Bryan Singer's Superman Returns, and several other films down the road like Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, and of course the Arrowverse with shows like Arrow and DC's Legends of Tomorrow. Even though originally, thinking back to my original shot footage of Power Rangers Lost Galaxy 2014, Jesse's likeness, or so the Sixth Ranger, the Red Ranger's brother again, that stock character, or Mike Corbett, his likeness was originally going to be Jake Gyllenhaal. Man, I just can't decide whether if I want Jake Gyllenhaal, Brandon Routh, Donnie Wahlberg. Heck, why not even Charlie Hunnam of Sons of Anarchy fame as Mike Corbett or whatever, Magna Defender, whatever worked. At the time, though, at least. Because, you see, Magna Defender and even Mike Corbett or whoever to be the Magna Defender in an alternate universe, a retelling of Power Rangers is, well, interesting. See, I had been going through a debacle of what actors would represent those characters, and somehow, based on whatever their prior work as an actor was, whether if I was going to go with James, Routh, Hunnam, Wahlberg, whoever, and then turns out one of these guys could have been the more definitive Mike Corbett-like character for the Marchverse of Power Rangers Lost Galaxy. But again, when I started the 2014 PRLG universe, I said before, long ago, for those who've been following me for the last 6 years on these kind of videos and such of alike on these fan films, that I was not going to have the characters be named after the original Rangers, the Power Rangers that we're familiar with from the era that they were from. And that's saying much, because if of course, if I was going to do this fan film reboot, it was supposed to have the names of the actual characters that most Power Ranger fans have accustomed to, and of course I have to go for actor likenesses that's supposed to look like the characters, well, except for the Blue Ranger, but I'll correct that when I do the future Power Rangers Legacy Universe fan film equivalent to Kai, and realizing that Kai is Asian, and also the Blue Ranger is supposed to be Asian and PRLG. But that's why I had a hard time trying to find an actor, a good definitive actor that would look closely to how Russell Lawrence looked as Mike in Lost Galaxy. And personally, if I were to go with the likeness of, well, Brandon Routh, he would be Mike, and Wes Bentley, like I've said many times before, would be Leo. And then, of course, Don Cheadle would be Damon, Katie Cassidy would be Kendricks, whatever actress to be Maya, and an Asian actor to be Kai. Because when I did these films, I was nervous how I would have reinterpreted Leo, Damon, Kai, etc., in the version of Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, albeit paper puppets, if they were to still be Power Rangers in a remodified, reimagined world. I would reestablish these characters from what they were done in the actual series. Now, as of Jesse Marshall of the Marshverse, like I said, my Marshverse Rangers, are not perfect, and I'm not trying to make, how they are with original characters in fan fiction. Sure, the tendencies of bad fan fiction, right? Where you make OC characters and you claim that the OC characters are so much better than the original, than the characters that are already established in the canon. No. You should know that OC characters should not be as better or super powerful than the actual characters. Otherwise, the fans that follow fan fiction, that's why fan fiction is universally and utterly hated. That's one of the reasons why I feel like I want to make my OC characters not as better as the original characters and make them just lame duck characters. And then try to make them actually established characters and not try to make them perfect in any way. That's why none of the existing Lost Galaxy Rangers, that being Mike and Leo in them again, should not interact with the characters that I have established in in my version of what is their story and their show and their canon. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of fans were harassing me and such for the last 5 years about this stuff. Because when they heard that this was going to be a fan film reboot in the form of paper puppets, they harassed me since that how come I couldn't go with what was done in the actual series and what a lot of Power Ranger fans know. Because, well, maybe it's because, you see, I think one of the biggest insecurities when I did these films was I just didn't want to go with the names of the original Rangers. Because I want this version of Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, well, based on how I was going to do it, stand out on its own from what was already established in the actual series and throughout the entire history of Power Rangers. Because that's the kind of fan fiction of Power Rangers I was trying to do. Maybe I should have called it Power Rangers Lost Galaxy The Next Generation. Oh wait, that's already been taken. Or Power Rangers Lost Galaxy Generation 2, or Power Rangers Lost Galaxy 2014, since 2014, if you should know, at the time when Super Mega Force was airing, 2014 was the 15th anniversary year of Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, which makes sense because the fan film was to take place in the year 2014, 15 years after the original series ended, and while the subsequent Power Ranger seasons came and passed at that time, and by that succeeding year, at the same time of Super Mega Force, it makes sense that 15 years of Lost Galaxy was 2014. If you go by the math, 1999, 2014, calculate the addition of how many years this has been. If you calculate it as 1999 plus 15, and what do you get? 2014 by years has passed. Like how much if you calculate 1999 plus 20, it's 2019. Which, again, make calculative sense. So yeah, and also within the fan films themselves, my OC Magna Defender character, stock character, even in the footage, as seen, above in Power Rangers Lost Galaxy: The Wrath of Trakina, pretty much I've been downplaying the Magna Defender, my Red Ranger character's brother, if he was the Magna Defender, because again, I was kind of going beat for beat once more, basing on my nostalgia of how the character was done, where the Magna Defender as the Red Ranger's brother again. I know I've been repeating that a lot. If you want to do a drinking game of with me repeating that same tangent, go ahead, be my guest. This stock character as the Magna Defender is not Mike Corbett. Although, again, Mike and Leo is a thing, but Tony and Jesse are the opposite of what Mike and Leo are. The difference between Mike and Leo is that we don't even know what they were like before they were on Terra Venture became Rangers. One was a Ranger, and the other is just the legendary Magna Defender, though. Whereas Tony and Jesse are orphan brothers who lost their parents, and I know this is crappy backstory isms of fan fiction, but personally, I could have made Tony and Jesse interesting characters than what I already gave them, because I know that I'm being lazy, and that's just the name of the game of this fan film series of PRLG I've done all decade. Being lazy, not giving the characters any forethought of any character development, or actually great personalities of what made these what I should give these characters to be, and have these characters stand out. See, the problem is, I'd rather use my original characters if they were the Power Rangers, and not the characters a lot of fans love and know, and then butcher what made those characters so great and make them out of character, because that's just the thing. And also going with the actual series aesthetic, but having the characters different, or have actors that look like the characters but have the names changed, because I don't want to make the fans angry that, having the likeness of Wes Bentley, and how I should have the stock character be the Red Galaxy Ranger in the form of how Wes Bentley would actually do in real life, and see that, if he's wearing a blue jacket shirt, red tank top, and white pants, that's exactly what Leo was wearing, and have this stock character do something that Leo would not do, and if his name was Leo Corbett as the Red Lost Galaxy Ranger, and do something that the actual Leo Corbett would not do in the actual series, then that's a sign that the characters the sign that this is out of character. You get what I'm getting at, right? Or the same thing like with the likeness of the puppet of, with the actor likeness of Brandon Routh or whoever, if he was Mike Corbett, and have something that Mike would not do and something that Mike would do to expand upon the mythology of the characters. And I get I was being somewhat I hate to say, a pussy about it, because I was afraid how fans would react, how I would reimagine characters that people loved from the actual series, but done in the Marchverse, and then do them very half-assed and poorly, a la Teen Titans Go. And then, just having them just out of character, if you get what I mean. So yeah, there's that, guys, because really though, I finally had the time to get the Magna Defender videos out as much as possible. But all in all, Magna Defender is one of my all-time favorite Power Ranger characters, and I know there wasn't much to be said in both the original and Redux versions of these videos. And even though I'm glad that there is more love for Magna Defender out there, but I hope we get more love of the actual of all the Lost Galaxy Rangers for future times to come, with new stuff in the comics, and in Legacy Wars, and also Hasbro's line of Lightning Collection toys and such in the future. But I'm hoping to do so. But all in all, Magna Defender is, in fact, one of the most badass, tragic, but one of the greatest characters to ever live in Power Rangers. And furthermore, what else can I say about him? So, with Magna Defender covered, now we're down to at least one more Ranger in my belt and slate. But I think, like I said back in part 1 of the last part, the Pink Ranger videos is going to take a while for these reduxes, because, well, with Magna Defender out of the way, I'm going to have to save the Pink Ranger the best for last, like I did in the original videos. So after this, the next time I do more of these Morphin Grid case study reduxes and such of old videos for my Power Rangers Lost Galaxy fan film series, let's go back and do more villain coverage with the Emperor of all insectoids, and was actually in the original series the father of Trakina, with the Emperor of all insects, Scorpius.